Hey, thanks for accidentally clicking on Tablenauts. I'm Doolin, and today I want to talk to you about some games, and I also want to just apologize, first and foremost, that it's taken me about 2 weeks to get another video out. Video editing time and also recording time has been cut quite a bit because Emily and I actually just got a new puppy. Everything's fine with our... everybody asks, like, what's wrong with Nacho? Is he okay? He's fine. In fact, he loves this new puppy. They're best friends. And we have Lena. Hopefully I have a couple of videos and pictures to show of her. She's so cute, but she demands so much attention. I'm planning to try to completely catch up with where I am on December 5th, time of recording, where I've played, in the last 3 months that haven't been talked about, 70 games. And I want to do that in a very quick video. So we're going to fly through these. I hope you're ready. Go ahead. Get yourself... breathe in, breathe out. Do what you got to do. Let's go. First up is That Time You Killed Me by Pandasaurus Games. I got this back in 2021 for Christmas from Emily. She and I both were interested in it because we love chess. Problem is that it's not as good as chess in our opinions. It just makes us want to play chess more. It's a legacy game, so if you're interested in abstract strategy games, we're not so much because we just like playing chess. So this is a Cull for me. I give it a 3 out of 5, which in my opinion means it's fine. It's a little bit above average, but to me, not something that I need to keep. Next up is Scout by Oink Games. This is an easy keep for me. I love this card shedding game where it's like the strategy of trying to manipulate your hand in such a way that you can play all your cards before everybody else does. It's a keep. It is a 4.5 out of 5 for me, which means it is outstanding. Better than great. It's near perfection. Scout is incredible. Next up is Ticket to Ride London, which is also an easy keep for me. Emily and I played this a few months after getting back from a trip where we actually went to London, and so it was, nostalgic. But I also think this might be the best version of Ticket to Ride, just because it plays quicker. There's a couple new strategies in terms of trying to collect areas and build out that way. A little more area control, and for me, this is a 4 out of 5 great game. Evie, no. We'll see if she sticks with me for a second. Next up is Mariposas by AEG. I apologize if you can hear a little bell. Our other dog is blind, and so he needs something to be able to see her. Mariposas is a game that technically belongs to Emily. It's great. I love this game. It's themed around monarch butterflies leaving Mexico on their migration and then eventually making their way back. And so you're trying to push your luck of how far you can go for points and breed these like better butterflies and get all the points that you can. Hey, girl. To me, it's a keep. It's a 4 out of 5. I wouldn't be able to call this if I wanted to because it's Emily's, but I love it. Next up is another Elizabeth Hargrave game, and that is Wingspan, which, I mean, that's probably the one that she's known best for, right? And I've played this on BGA a ton, and I played this one time in person with Max a long time ago. This was his copy, and then he sold it to me. And I played this solo for the first time ever, and I really like Wingspan solo, crazily enough. Like, I think it... I don't know which way I like it better. It's very cozy and very fun to do solo. So this is an easy keep. Wingspan's incredible. I don't know why we don't talk about this more. It's an incredible game. It's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Outstanding, really well produced game. Really well, every time I've played this, I've enjoyed it. Next up is Bonanza by Amigo Games. I played this with Kenny and Max, and while we had a really funny, laughing game of this, at the end of the day, it didn't really hit for us as well as we'd like for it to. And so for me, it's a Cull. It's a 3.5 out of 5. I think Kenny liked it more because he's really big into auction games, or at least he is lately. And maybe I can just give this to him if he likes it enough, but I don't think it would hit with my family. Can you sit down here? Next up is Four Humors by Adam's Apple Games. This we have a whole video in length about how good it is. I have it with Josh. I love it. It's a keep. It's hidden information, betting, bluffing, area control all together, and it's a keep. The theme is cool. It's a 4 out of 5. Next up is Empire's End, which was a new game that I bought from Logan in our Discord, and it's good. I enjoy it. I played this with somebody from my church, and I was surprised at how light it felt, even though, I don't know, it's just a little, like, I don't know, the learn was long, but the teach was easy. I don't know how that was, but it's a keep. It's a 3.5 out of 5 for me, and I'm excited to teach this to Max and Kenny, because I think it'll, I don't know, there's enough like interaction that I think it'll be funny as we play and our empires are destroyed slowly. Next up is Long Shot, the dice game, and this one I used to be really, really high on. I used to say that it was on par with Camel Up. I've since cooled on it at least a little bit, but I still think this is good. I played the solo mode for the first time to get this one played, and it's a keep. It's a 3.5 out of 5. I like the theme as a person from Kentucky, but it's one that I think is not going to see as many plays as I'd like for it to, but it's small and easy to pull out, and it's fun. I think it's a good one for me to have in my collection. Next up is one that I love, and it's still fairly new. This is Fit to Print by Fallout Games, or Flat Out Games. Excuse me. I was about to say Fallout Games. I was like, wait, that doesn't sound right. Flat Out Games. They have great games. If you have not played a Flat Out game, at least for my house, Emily and I love pretty much every single game they've ever put out, and they have a really great batting average, at least for us. And Fit to Print is no different. Like, it's one that if you don't like the real-time thing, you can play it in a chill manner, but I think the real-time aspect of this game is really fun, especially for people that might play flat-out games like Calico or Verdant and think, it's a little too cozy and not enough interaction. Like, this has some rowdiness to it that is fun. So Fit to Print, really, really good. It's a 4.5 out of 5 and an easy keep. It's going to go right there. Actually, it already is. Next to all the other flat-out games. Next up is Bees by Next Move Games, and I'm going to go ahead and say that Bees 5211, Hey That's My Fish, these are the next 3 to talk about, and all of them were in their own separate video. I just didn't put it in this, so I would highly recommend go check out that, where I rank all of the Next Move games that I have. But I'll go ahead and quickly say Bees is a Cull. It's 3.5 out of 5. It's good. I just have played it enough, and I don't think that it's going to get played over other games that are similar to it. 5211 is a Cull. It's 3 out of 5. It's fine. It's a card drafting game that isn't incredibly unique. I think other games would get played over it. And then Hey That's My Fish is a 4.5 or 4 out of 5. Great game, easy keep. In fact, I want to get a second copy so I can play up to 8 people at the same time and have just a massive board. I think that would be so fun. She's coming back to me. Next up is Everdell by Starling Games, and this is a keep. It's so fun. I've played the app a bunch this year, but this was the first time playing it like in person, and there's just something special about having it on the table. I think Far Shore is really good, but I think that I prefer the base game, and so this is a 4.5 out of 5 for me. I played it base game, no expansions, even though I have some of the expansions too. Next up is Jubico. I think Jubaco. I don't know how to pronounce this game, and this took me by surprise. I actually got this game a year ago at Half Price Books for $8, I think. It looks like a fun pattern building game, and I would say that it's designed by I think Michael Kiesling, and so that's everybody should know that from Azul fame and many other great games. But he created this like domino-esque game that is really, really neat, and I really like it. It's one that Emily and I both played, and I expected to cull after playing it just once, and we both said no, we would like to revisit this. So it's a 3.5 out of 5. Good game for us, and it could rise with more plays. I don't know if it has like the capacity to beat out like games like Azul or anything like that. I'd say definitely not. But it's one that I could see staying in the collection for a while just because of the theme and how cool it is. Next up is a Cull, and this is by Runaway Parade Games called Fire Tower. I don't have much to say other than that it was fine. It's a game about trying to burn down a forest and then burn down your friend's fire tower faster than yours, even though people in charge of fire towers are trying to put out fires. You're trying to just be the last fire tower person alive, and I don't know, it's really odd and not that fun, and so I give it a 2.5 out of 5. Santa Monica is next by AEG, and this is an easy keep. This is one that I've enjoyed playing with Max and also Emily, and it's a 4 out of 5. It's a great game, and it's this drafting game with some unique mechanics, and you're trying to build out the Santa Monica beach with touristy spots if you want tourists, or local favorites, so you get the bunch of locals. Like, it depends on what you're going for, but there's a lot of ways to score points, and it's a pretty fun game. Hey, you doing good? You went down? Okay, I'll put you down. All right, next up is a game that I've actually been high on for a long time. I've sang its praises, and I still think it's really good. It's a 4.5 out of 5 for me, and that's The King is Dead by Osprey Games. This is the same creator as Brian Boru, which I love. I think it's great. I don't own it yet. Max owns it, or Kenny owns it. One of those two owns it, and we like that game a lot. But this one is much simpler while also being a lot tighter, and I think it's perfect at 2. It's really, really fun to play, and it's this like Game of Thrones-esque thing where you don't have a definitive like faction at the start of the game. You kind of build out who you're going to want to win based off of the pieces that you're collecting, and it's just really neat. I like that fluidity to the game, and it's very quick and very fun. So that's The King is Dead, and it's 4.5 out of 5 keep. Next up is one that I've gotten a lot of flack from fellow Tablenauts lately for how much I like this game, but I don't care because I still believe that this game is amazing, because every person that I've taught this game to outside of my Tablenauts friends have loved this game. Students that I have, or even family members, like everybody gets real pumped, and I would consider it like, it's called Bingo, and it's a soccer flicking game. All you gotta know is that you take turns flicking, and there's these little pegs that kind of block the path, and there's a couple extra rules that can give people like yellow and red cards, removing pegs from the center and also causing people to get free kicks at different spots on the map. All you need to know really is that back and forth nature, and it's so fast paced, and I know people who are incredibly good at getting just the perfect shots, and I've had tournaments with people in this game. There's this back and forth and push and pull, and oftentimes when you get two people who know what they're doing, they're making these insane shots, but they're all, like, if they know that they can't make it from where they are, the goal is to just make it as hard as possible on the next person. So maybe like pool in that nature too, where you're trying your best to make sure that people don't have a good shot. All that to say, it's great, it's fun. 4.5 out of 5. Outstanding game, and right now is my favorite dexterity game. Speaking of dexterity games, next up is Jungle Speed, and this one's a Cull for me. It's basically Spoons-like, but not. There's a wooden baton, and you're simply flipping over. Everybody's at the top. The table is flipping over cards, and whenever like symbols get flipped over, everybody goes for that wooden baton, or the two players that flip the same symbol go for it, and whoever got it ends up getting points while the other player does not. And it's fine. I would rather just play Spoons, which I think is a lot of fun, actually, and people know that game naturally, but it's fine. Jungle Speed's fine. I give it a 3 out of 5. I think some people might really, really enjoy this game, but not really for my group. Next up is Thunder Road Vendetta, which is an easy keep. This game is just dice chucky, fun, destructive, bumping each other off the road, Mad Max style goodness. I give this a solid 4.5 out of 5 for what it is. It's outstanding, and it's an easy keep for me. I want to get more of the stuff because I just have the base game right now. Next up is Skull King by Grandpa Beck Games, and this is my first out of the 70, 5 out of 5. Perfect game. It's currently my favorite trick-taking game, even though Trick Takers, the game, which is a funny, like, kind of nothing burger name for such an outstandingly made game. Kenny and Max and I have been playing quite a few times, and I really like it. It's a asymmetric style trick-taker game, but Skull King, there's just something about it that is incredibly fun. It's almost like poker meets spades, and I love it. It's awesome. Next up will surprise probably a lot of you, but I bought this game thinking that it would be a fun solo game, and then found out very quickly that it's not really meant to be a solo game, and that's Above and Below, which I enjoyed. I'm going to say it's a 4 out of 5. I'm calling it. The reason is because of what it is. I don't see it getting played with my friends. I don't think that they would actively want to choose to play this. My family, absolutely not. It's too much. It's too long for Max and Kenny. I just think that they, like, apparently I bought this off of Kenny. Kenny doesn't want to play it anymore. Max would be like, whatever. Like, it's not, like, I think it's too light for them and too heavy for my family. And so, and I don't want to play this solo anymore. Like, it's not a very good solo game. Even with some versions that you can find on BGG, it's okay, or not okay. It's a great game. Like, it's rare. I can see some groups really liking this, but it's not for me. So that's a cull. And then next up is a keep that you guys are gonna be like, he's calling Above and Below and keep for this, but this is Beat the 8 Ball. It's such a little silly game. It's a 3 out of 5, but students love it. It's funny, and if you get the right crowd, it can be really, really fun and exciting and mean, and yeah, all of that. It's you're just trying to beat the 8 ball before it drops, and that's it. That's pretty much it. And whoever lasts the longest before the 8 ball drops gets a certain amount of, like, the most points, and whoever drops after the 8 ball hits is gonna lose points. And yeah, that's the game. That's all it is. Next up is another call, and this is Lanterns Dice by Renegade Games. It's a roll and write / tile placement game, and that should hit, but it did not. I don't know. It's just there's so many good tile. It's for me, it's a 3 out of 5. It was also missing some game components, but we were able to play it without those. We were just able to look up some cards online. There's no cards that it came with, which is baffling. Be careful what you buy online on Amazon. But this is a call for us simply because it's going up against a bunch of polyomino games and roll and writes in our collection that we like. Lanterns Dice, call, it's fine. Moving on. Next up is 10 by AEG. This is a keep. It's a 3.5 out of 5, and it's good. This is, a push your luck card collection game that is it's probably one of Flat-Out's worst games, even though it's a 3.5 out of 5. That should tell you how highly I think of Flat-Out games. Careful. We gotta get moving. So next up is First in Flight. I played this with Kenny and Max. It's a push your luck deck building game about trying to fly a plane the farthest, and it's very good. 4 out of 5 for me. Great game. Absolutely a keep. Next up is Cloudspire, which this I bought off of Kyle for a steal of a price. Like, the dude's, he's so nice to me. For me, it's a call because I don't see this getting played. And I just bought Elder Scrolls. And speaking of, I'm also going back on what I said about keeping Hoplomachus. After playing through Elder Scrolls, it's going to be the chip theory game for me. And I'll probably go all in on whatever content they release after. But Cloudspire is different because it's kind of like online video games where you're building up your base and you're programming these enemies to go after your friend's base. I never really played those, and so that part doesn't really speak to me, but it is neat and it's well made. It's a 4 out of 5. It's just not one that's going to get played. It's a hard setup, and hard to remember all the rules, and it would need to be kind of like a lifestyle solo, or a one person plays against me all the time, and that's just not going to happen. So Cloudspire is a cull for me. Moving on to Marvel Dice Throne, which I talked about Dice Throne Adventures in the last video or 2 videos ago, and Marvel Dice Throne is incredibly fun. I love it. Roxley does such a good job with these games, and my favorite right now to play is Black Panther, just because of the, like, you hit me, but I'm going to get to hit you back type of thing with him, and it's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. I'm excited to keep playing this style of game, because out of all the dice chuckers I have, Dice Throne is up there in terms of which I like the most. Next up is Fallout Shelter, which surprised me because of what it is. Like, you're essentially building out it's a worker placement game, and the more worker buildings you build, the more worker placement spots there are, and there's going to be innies that show up that you have to fight, and you need to upgrade your characters with equipment and all this stuff. It's really good, really well made. For me, it's a 4 out of 5. It's a great game, and I'm actually pumped to go back and do a video game board game comparison, because I think that there was some love put into this game, despite it being an IP that could easily they just put this out there and it'd be a cash grab, but I think this is well made. Next up, speaking of dice chuckers like Dice Throne, but this one specifically isn't all that great, I'm going to say Dice Hunters of Therion is a cull. This is kind of like King of Tokyo if it were less mean, because you're still battling for this position. You're trying to be the best hunter and roll the most attack, but at the same time, there is no player elimination. There's no meanness of attacking one another. You're attacking these beasts in the middle, and then you get the reward for killing it. I don't mind meanness in games. My family doesn't mind meanness and player elimination in games. And my friends certainly don't mind being, we love these types of raucous, attacking each other games. And so this would be a game I would absolutely recommend to those of you that think King of Tokyo and games like that are too mean. Play Dice Hunters of Therion. It's not horrible. It's just not one that I would play over, for me, not one that I would play over King of Tokyo or Dice Throne. I'm gonna say it's a 3 out of 5. It's good, or fine. It's gonna be good for the right people, but I'm not the right person for this. I'm calling so many games, guys. I'm gonna need people to help me get rid of these. Next up is another cull, and it's by Stellar Factory called Ravine. This is a bad game. I don't want to sell this to anybody. I'm just gonna kind of trash it because it's a 2 out of 5. It's kind of trying to be like Minecraft or these survival video games, but in board game form. But the problem is that it's completely random. Every day you can forage, spending cards to forage for things, and you might get food, or you might just get an enemy that bites you, or you might get a stick that you can combine later with a rock. But then all of a sudden at nighttime, you're pulling these cards that always do something bad, like horrible weather, and if you don't have shelter enough for all 4 of you, or however many players you're playing with, some people might die. Or you might pull a tiger who comes and bites everyone, and you have a certain amount of health, and after you lose all your health, you're out, and your goal is to survive a certain number of days, and if one of you does, you win the game. It's just not, there's no player agency in this at all. It's just completely random every time you play, and it's bad. It's bad. The design is kind of cool. That's about all I can say that's good about this game. Let's go back to good games, though. We have Dungeon Kart, which after playing Joyride with Max and Kenny, I worry we might not get Dungeon Kart played much ever, but luckily it's high enough player count that my family would play this. This is basically Mario Kart, the game. You're going to have, drafting, and you're going to drift around the cart, and all of the carts are based off of, or all of the carts and all of the maps are based off of the characters from Overboss, but all of those are loosely based off of like old video games like Mario. And so Mario Kart Dungeon Kart. So I love that. Like, there's catch-up mechanics, and it's just fun. Like, that's the best way to describe this. It's really cool and fun. Next up, I got to play the movie game with Kenny and Max. I love this. It's by the Valley Folk. It's a very niche like type of game, and I'm not even sure if you can buy it, but if you don't know what it is, just look up movie game on the Valley Folk at YouTube, and they play it live, and you can play along with them. It's a game show that he made, and then he made it into a board game, but it's for those of you that love movies and love trivia and love wordplay, and it's a 4 out of 5 for me. It's great. It'll hit only for the right people, and for us, we're the right people. Next up is Tattoo Stories by Bicycle Games. My wife loves this. As far as drawing games go, it's good. In fact, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, which means I consider it to be a good game. It's just one that like you have to be in the right mood for, and you can't take too seriously. But my family, we love playing this game every once in a while, and there's always laughter and a good time. Very much a chill, relax, like end of the night with people. You don't care anymore. You just want to draw and laugh type of game. All right, let's very quickly. Lie by Perplexed Game is a tiny little chew gum style box game that surprised my family with how much the bluffing. It's basically Liar's Dice, the game, but with cards. It's a keep. It's 3 out of 5. Fine game. Next up is Chai Tea for 2, and I'm sorry. I know that many of you are like, what the heck? Like, how does he have this? We got the prototype, and the prototype is the full game. It's great. I don't even want to really give it a score. I'm keeping this. I'm sorry for those of you that never got your copy. Moving on. Next up is Familiar Tales, and this is one Emily and I expected to love, but unfortunately we just stopped playing it. And I think we ended up saying that like it felt, I don't know, it wasn't too complicated. It was just not as fun as the previous games that we'd played by them. Like Stuffed Fables was just awesome. We played through all of that. Aftermath, I think, is my favorite now. It's incredibly fun. Familiar Tales gameplay loop is just not as interesting. The story is really well done. It's probably the best story out of all of them. It's just the gameplay is less fun than I would like for it to be. So it's a keep for now. We're going to probably try to get through it and push through it because of just our love for Jerry Hawthorne and our love for the style of games and their story and everything, but it's definitely not as good as the other ones. Next up is Honey Buzz, which I played solo, and I still love this game. It's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Really, really interesting and difficult to wrap your mind around what you're supposed to do type of worker placement game, and there's just something about this that I love. I love playing it with other players, and I love playing this solo, and so it's going to be one that stays in my collection for a long time. Anomia is one that I'm going to have to keep and continue to keep because everybody around me and everybody I love loves this game. This is a real-time party game that is simply about once similar symbols at the table get flipped, you have to say something that matches the category in front of the person that matched your symbol faster than they say something for your category, and that's it. That's all it is. And my family and Max and Danielle and Emily, everybody seems to love this game. I suck at it, and it makes me nervous. So for me, it's a 3 out of 5, but it's a keep. Next up is Bang the Dice Game, which I used to really enjoy whenever I was in college. I thought this game was neat and fun. Bang, the original game, is actually pretty cool. It's like a deduction-y style game. And this has a little bit of that, but it loses it pretty quickly. Bang the Dice Game's fine. It's a 2 out of 5, or 2.5 out of 5 meh game for me, and it's a Cull. Crash Octopus is next. This is another dexterity game. It's a flicking game where you're trying to get things onto your boat, and it looks like a mess when it's on the table, but it's really, really fun. This is a keep for me, 3.5 out of 5. Gussie Gorillas is next. I'm trying to fly through these. And this is such a silly party game, and I love it. I think it's so good. This is simply a auction like style game where everybody knows what card you have except for you, and you know what everybody else has, and that's pretty much the game. And you're trying to make trades without knowing what your card is, and based off what other people are saying, you can either keep your card if you think that they are telling you that your card is good and they're not lying, or you can make trades with people at the table, and if nobody wants to trade with you and you don't want to keep the card, you can pull up another one, start trading with it. It's so silly. It's set collection at the end for scoring, but that chaos that happens in the auction phase is so fun. So that's a 4 out of 5 for me, an easy keep. Next up is a trivia game with Nick Jonas's face on it, and it's a Cull, and it's a 2.5 out of 5 linky. Then after that, we have Snake Oil, which I think hits really well with the right people. If you and your friends are really, really good at improv, you might love Snake Oil. But for everybody else, you're going to hate it. So for me, Snake Oil is a 3 out of 5. And I'm going to look for a new version because one of my friends accidentally spilled coffee all over my current one. So it's a call. But I want to get it again after this. Next up is Slide Quest, which is such a weird dexterity style game where everybody's going to be pulling on the edge of this board a thing that lifts up the entire board, and there's going to be your person sliding around the board, and you're avoiding obstacles and holes that you don't want to fall into, and you're trying to get to the end. And this game is actually a lot tougher than it looks, but it's a gimmick that is silly, and I think I'm going to keep this to play with Max and Kenny and maybe Emily on the channel one time, just because I think it'd be funny to record it. But after that, I don't think I necessarily have to keep it, even though it's a campaign game. I don't see myself going through it, the whole thing. Next up is one of the best party games that you can play, and that's Tapple, which involves, like, it's such a piece. Like, I remember being at Jeff and Jamie's and Emily and I being like, what is that? And then they were like, pull it, like, bring it to the table. We're gonna try it. We'll teach you in like 2 seconds, and we'll be playing. And it's one of those games where it does not take any time at all to get playing, but then the tenseness and the excitement of it is just contagious and fun. And it's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. Incredibly fun little game. It reminds me of my love for catchphrase back in the day when you got the little like buzzer and like you pass it around the table. But Tapple's so fun. Very, very good game. Next up is Wavelengths, which I also think is just a really fun like conversational party game. You can tell that I played some party games with some people and got these played. But this is a 3.5 out of 5 for me, and it's good. It's a keep because of it just being one of the perfect games I can pull out for people who aren't as into board games. Don't want to compete, but might be talked into a game where you actually compete, but it's more about the conversation being had. It's silly, it's fun, and it brings people together. Wavelength is good. We have Cash and Guns. I was really high on this game at first, but the more I play it, the more I'm like, okay, like the silliness of it is wearing off. You have these little foam guns that you're going to be pointing at each other, and it's a bluffing and set collection draft game, and it's fine. It's a 3.5 out of 5, good game. Ready, Set, Bet is next, and I should say Cash and Guns is a keep for now. But Ready, Set, Bet is also a 3.5 out of 5, but it's a Cull because it does not hit very well with my family or Emily's family, and I don't think Max and Kenny would care to play this over other games, and so yeah, it's a betting game, tried and true with dice rolling, and that's it. Inside Job, Trick Taker with a trader mechanic, and it's a blast to play. It's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. I'm high. I'm buying all the stock. Not really, but you know what I mean, of Inside Job. And Jeff and Jamie taught me this one, and since I've played it with many groups of people, and it's just a hit every time. Next up is Robin Hood, The Adventures of Robin Hood by Cosmo, and this took forever to get played. I'm sorry, Max, you bought it for me for Christmas like 3 years ago, and Emily and I just never sat down to finally play it, and we finally did because of this challenge, and we ended up being like, wow, this is actually a lot of fun. There's so much story to this game, but there's an entire book, like giant book, that you play through, and it teaches you the game as you go through it, and it's so cool. Like, it's very well made. and I'm excited to go back and play this campaign with Emily through and through. Next up is Tainted Grail, specifically the Kings of Ruin, which I've talked about in an entirely separate video when I got the prototype, but I have the full game now, and I love it. It's still incredible. It's a 5 out of 5 experience. There's not much more I can say that I haven't said in the other videos, so go see those to keep until I finish the game. Next up is Super Fantasy Brawl, which is now going under CMON, and after kind of committing to getting the new Heroescape stuff, I don't see the point in keeping Super Fantasy Brawl. I also have my friends' copies of Unmatched. I can play with them. I also just enjoy playing Shatterpoint. Like all of these other miniature-based games, I would rather be playing. It's a 3.5 out of 5 for me, and it's a very expensive Cull that I'm going to be doing. And yeah, I don't know. That's one of those that feels bad moments. It's leaving my collection, but it's fine. I don't need to play anymore. Speaking of Culls, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row. So let's just get through them all really, really quickly. Crimes in History, H.H. Holmes. Cold because we've played it enough and it's fine. It's a game kind of like Betrayal House on the Hill. 3.5 out of 5. Tomb Raider Legends, 1.5 out of 5. Bad. Horrible video game adaptation board game. Awful. Avoided at all costs. Cull. Star Wars, a deck building game. It's like Star Realms, but one player plays the good guys, one player plays the bad guys, and in a deck building game, the market phase is maybe my favorite part about deck building games, and in this game, you can stop players from getting cards that are good when you're the bad guy, but you can't ever buy those cards when they're out there, and that seems dumb. Like it's a deck building. I don't want to badmouth it too much. It was fun. I would just always 10 out of 10 times rather play Shards of Infinity or Star Realms. And on top of that, if I want to play a Star Wars quick game, 2-player game, I'm playing Unlimited. Unlimited's incredible. So Star Wars deck building game, it's a 3.5 out of 5. Good game, fine. It's cool. Star Wars Bounty Hunter, 2.5 out of 5. Meh game. That's about it. Like, the strategy in this game is silly. In fact, the Dice Tower has a pretty good review of this where they talk about how the Bounty Hunter cards are the worst cards in the game, and the game's named Star Wars Bounty Hunter. That's not very good design, and I apologize. I don't want to badmouth anybody's games, or badmouth. I don't want anybody to feel bad, and I want to like this game a lot more. The Bounty Hunters in Star Wars are some of my favorite aspects of Star Wars, but I'd rather play Outer Rim. If I'm going to go for that, I'd rather play any other Star Wars game, pretty much. It's 2.5 out of 5. Next up is Blazin', which is a pattern building game about building out your shield, like your crest, essentially, in medieval times, and it's good. It's fine. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It's a fun experience, but not better than most games like it, and so it's a call. And then our last one is Dead by Daylight, which Kenny notoriously hates, and Max and I liked it for the most part, and I think Josh did too. I think it's a faithful adaptation of the board game, or the video game, I mean. The problem is that Terrascape beats it 10 times out of 10, and so for me it's a 3.5 out of 5. And for those of you that love the video game, you might get a kick out of it. It's not one that we're going to choose to play. Next up is Gap, which I played with Max and Kenny. This is a keep. It's a 3.5 out of 5. Hard to explain card game. And that might be the worst part about it, is that sometimes it's hard to remember how scoring works at the end of each round. At least for a lot of the players that I've played with, including Kenny. Kenny struggled, and I think Max destroyed us in this. Either Max or I won. I think it was Max, but I like it a lot. I think that the strategy in this is neat, which cards you're going to play out of your hand in what order and what you're going to go for. But it's definitely, there's a little bit of luck, especially at that very end where you just have to play your last card and hope for the best. But Gap is good. Next up, I think this is my third. It was Tainted Grail, it was Skull King, and now Sagrada gets a 5 out of 5. And since going to Barcelona with Emily and seeing the Sagrada Familia Chapel, and just being blown away by the stained glass. Know that this game 1000% has a good theme, and I played this with Max and Kenny, and both of them were like, wow, like Sagrada just slaps. It's a good game. I love it. It's one of the best like dice manipulation style games out there. Perfection, 5 out of 5. Next up is Get Bit. This is going into that play. We played it poorly. I taught it wrong to, believe it or not, with such a simple game, to Max and Kenny. I watched a video like months before, and I just tried to teach it at the end of the night, and it did not work. They hated it. But then we learned that we played it wrong, and they want to play it again. I played it with my family for Thanksgiving, and it was good. It was a fun little like game to kind of throw in at the end of the night. And so it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me, and it's a keep for now, at least. And it is a bit gimmicky with like the little divers that have their like lose their limbs, but it's whatever. It's fine to keep. Next up is Robot Quest Arena, which is another deck building game by the creators of Star Realms, and this one you're programming robots on the map that are fighting each other. I would call this like deck building version of like Super Smash Brothers is what it kind of feels like, because you're getting all these cards that you're using to do different powers on each other and push them into like pits or into things that'll hurt them, and you're trying to like there's a King of the Hill aspect, because if you're in your turn in the middle, you get an extra point, and every time you die you just respawn, and you're trying to get the most points from damaging and killing each other, and it's just a blast. Like I love this game. Kenny and Max like it too, and they're willing to play it with me, so that's an easy decision to keep. For me, it's a 4 out of 5. And then our final 5, we have Hidden Leaders, which for me, I really like this. My friends, not so much. Kenny and Max were fine. They just kept saying it's worse Veiled Fate, which I would agree with, but Veiled Fate is my number 3 favorite game of all time. It's Veiled Fate, but played a lot faster, and less good. And so here's the problem. It's a 4 out of 5 for me. Great game, but I don't think it'll ever get played, because I'd rather play with my friends Veiled Fate if I want a quicker experience where we're trying to like, have this hidden information and screw each other over. I'd rather play the new game Courtesans in my collection. And so with that in mind, those two things in mind, in those two games, I'd rather play for its best features. Then it's an easy decision to get rid of, especially with my friends not really enjoying it so much. Next up is Root, which I own, I think, all of, and I already jumped on the Kickstarter for the new stuff. This is my number 1 game of all time still. It's a 5 out of 5 perfect game. I set up for the first time ever the Clockwork expansion to play solo. I thought it would be a lot easier to set up. It was a little much. And I can see why people think Root is like this really hard to learn game. I'll just go ahead and say the app does everything for you pretty much. And so that's a perfect place to learn the game if you're interested in Root, and it's not that expensive as opposed to Root being very expensive. So get the app, but Root is one that's going to stay in my collection for forever as long as I'm a fan of board games, because it's just perfect. It's incredibly fun. Asymmetric war game about going for like all of the factions I love at this point, and yeah, it's great. 3 left. Vagrant Song I got played. I played this 2-handed solo, and it's a really awesome like ghost train campaign game for me right now. After just 1 play, it's a 4 out of 5. Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle Earth I got played solo, and this is a lot like it felt like Mansions of Madness for sure, but it also felt like Imperial Assault. But it's what I wish Imperial Assault was, and specifically in its co-op, and it's so fun. I love Lord of the Rings, and so having a really fun Lord of the Rings like campaign game to play, I'm gonna try to introduce this to my dad, and him and I play through this together. For me right now, it's a 4.5 out of 5 keep. And then lastly, Star Wars Villainous I got played, and specifically my new version with Boba Fett in it and Cad Bane, and man, Star Wars Villainous might be the best version of Villainous. It might be if Emily and I didn't love the Disney movies, it might be cold in favor of Star Wars Villainous and just collecting all of it instead. But it's good, and the added nature of the ships is just so fun. And that is going to conclude this very long 70 board game keeper Cull. I think if I did the math right, I only have 29 games left to play. And I only have 25 days. Yeah, left in 25 days left in December. And so I'm going to try my best. Something tells me I'm not going to do it though, because there's still a few games that I haven't learned and require specific numbers of players to play. War of the Ring especially. I don't know who's going to play that with me, and I don't know if I'm going to have the time to learn it in time. But I'm going to give the old college try. Thank you so much if you've watched this long. I love you guys. Your support means everything, and it's nice to get back behind the camera again. And I'm looking forward to hopefully getting more videos out soon, especially as Lena becomes a little more calm and chill around our house and easier to watch. But we love you. Thank you so much. Have a great holiday season, and I'll see you next time. Bye.